Hi, welcome back. This week we're going to make a line design piece made from toilet paper tubes and or paper towel tubes, whichever that you have. You are going to need a good 5 to 10 tubes, depending on how big you want to make your piece. And you're going to need some kind of way of attaching them. Glue works, a needle and thread, stapler, any hot glue if you have that. I'm just going to use a regular household glue, and I do have a needle and thread here to show you how to use that. The first thing that you're going to do is I created a PowerPoint that is in our Schoology where we're going to go over and look at different designs for what we can possibly make. And then you're going to either use one of those as a guide, and I say guide because you always want to make it an original piece, or you're going to look at them and then get a piece of paper and sketch out a design. So I sketched this out. I started from the center and I worked my way outward. And you can notice that there are different shapes to the pieces. Some are long and kind of leaf-like, and others are more of like a fat triangle. So I'm going to show you different ways that you can shape the tubes to create that kind of a thing. We are going to make what's called a relief sculpture. Relief sculpture is more for up against a wall. This is going to have the same from both sides, but most relief sculptures are one-sided. They are three-dimensional and come off of the wall, but they normally have a back to them. Ours isn't really going to have a back to it unless you decide you want to attach something to it. The other thing that you could do is you could make it so that instead of hanging up against a wall, you can suspend it from a wire or a cord so that it hangs and it floats around. That's another option. They're all examples of both of those in what I have in the PowerPoint. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a tube and a pair of scissors and we're going to cut them. I already have my design. I have an idea about what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to cut my tube. Now, you can cut the tube any width that you want. Keep in mind that, the thicker the tube, the less material you're going to have, right? The wider that you make the cut. And the other thing is that if you make them varied widths, it's also going to stick out higher off the wall, okay? All right, so I cut mine all the same length. So I'm just cutting a little piece so that went flying. So mine are about 1/4 of an inch in width. I'm not really measuring. I'm just kind of cutting them, and they do kind of go flying as you're doing this. And now you can also, I'm going to keep mine raw. I might paint it when I'm finished at all one color so it kind of like comes together. I might spray paint it, but if you choose to, before you start attaching, you want different colors in your design. Some of the examples that I gave you had different colors. You can paint them prior. So this is what you're going to start with. I have little chunk of tube. I have already cut a whole pile of them here. All right, so these are all cut straight across. Now, you can also make them curved if you want to. Okay, this one is the ones that I just cut straight across, and this is the curve. So I'll show you how to cut the curve as well, in case you decide you want to do that. So if you're cutting the curve, you literally want to start by cutting one curve, and then you're going to take your scissor and just kind of follow that so that you get a series of curved rings. Okay, so you can see the difference in that's not straight across, okay? And when you lay it flat on something, it does stick up on the side. So if you like that concept of it sticking up, then you might want to cut them like this, okay? I may add those in somewhere. Now, again, This will evolve as you work. It doesn't necessarily mean that your original design has to be exactly what it's going to look like when you're done. Okay, sculpture does evolve, artwork evolves, it changes depending on what decisions that you make in your composition as you go. Okay, so let me readjust and then I'll be right back. Okay, I readjusted my screen so that you could look down at what I'm working at. I actually taped 4 pieces of printer paper together so that it would be easier for you to see on the table. I'm actually working on the floor. My floor is hardwood, so they would blend in really well and you wouldn't be able to see the design. So again, here's my original design. I'll keep it over to the side a little bit so that we can refer to that. And the best thing to do is to look at the shape that you've drawn or that you're trying to achieve and try and bend your piece so that it makes that shape. Okay, so like they're not going to be exact, but I know that I want a long piece for the center section. That's what I started. So I'm going to kind of pinch them together so that I get that long looking piece. All right. You can work right on top of your drawing if you want. It might be a little bit difficult later to do that. So I'm going to take it off so you guys can see it better. Okay. All right. So I'm going to create the center. So they are going to attach right down at that point. So I'm going to put some glue on there. You could also use your needle and thread. It's really whatever you want to use. So I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 7 in the center. Now, if you decide, if you come up with a different number, that doesn't matter. I'm just kind of trying to go with what I drew here. All right, so there's 5. And I'm going to use all the same color because I also have white tubes, but I might want to add them in. I don't know if I want to paint this at this point. I also wrote that you could add glitter, you could add paint, you could add other materials. Okay, so you can kind of see how that's going to come together as my center section. And it really looks very similar to that center section that I have there. So I'm going to glue those together at this point. I'm just going to use this hobby glue. And you really don't need a lot because you're only going to put it where it's going to touch. Regular Elmer's glue will work, okay? Don't put it so it like globs off. So you can either kind of hold it for a few seconds together. It will bond pretty quickly. Or if you have some clothespins, that works great to kind of hold it together just for a few seconds. So I'm going to do a few of them together and then I'll put them together, the whole thing. This glue is a kind of a thick glue. So, you know, most white glues do not glue completely for a while. So you may have to work on this a little bit in stages, but the clothespins are definitely going to help. So I'm going to do 3 sets like this, and then we'll see if I can take those apart and then put it together a different way. So I'm only really using, they're very light, you know, they're little tiny pieces, so you don't need a lot of glue. All right, so I'm going to take the first one off, and that should be pretty good by now. See, like it's already stuck. Okay, so I'm going to take that one that was the spare and put that on now. Let the others sit for a couple seconds. So it's really not going to take all that long for this to bond together. So by the time I get that one done, I could probably take this one off. Okay, it's not completely glued, but it's definitely going to hold for you. Okay, so let's take these other 2 and we'll put those together and then we can put the whole thing together. So one of the things that I mentioned was that I wanted you to deal with line, which you're definitely going to do with this because all of these little pieces that you have are going to create a really interesting line pattern. And space, of course, because you have all of those openings. Okay, so now let's see. We might have to put a few clothespins on this one to just get that to bond. The good thing about this kind of glue is that it's going to dry clear. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple on there for a few minutes and let that get set up. All right, I'll be back in a second. Okay, so that didn't take very long to glue together. I can actually pick up the whole thing and turn it around. So it's on there. Like I said, it's not completely glued. You might want to check it over later, maybe after you're done, put a little extra glue if you think you need it. So I'm going to move on and start to shape my next piece, which is going to be kind of a triangular piece. I think I'm going to try and just do this one here and leave that as an opening. So I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to make like a flattened out kind of wider triangle. So you just have to kind of play with it a little bit to figure out what the shape is. So there's my triangle, and it may not fit on here as it does on the drawing. It depends, you know, so you might have to work with it a little bit, or that's where you're going to readjust the way your drawing comes out. So that's actually going to work pretty good. I have a little bit more of a size in here. I drew that a little bit smaller, but I'm going to kind of work them. They're kind of an even triangle shape. So, and then if it doesn't fit right, you can always rebend it a little bit to figure out how it's going to fit the best in there. So I need to put those in. And you know, I'm just kind of eyeballing this. If you are one of those people that likes to be more precise, you could absolutely measure it. Okay, we just need 2 more, and then we are ready to start putting that together. The good thing now is that it also gave the, oh, I kind of like how that shape is. You see that shape? And that fits nicely in there. I might readjust my design to do that when I put them together. I think I'm going to put a clothespin here and a clothespin here to hold them together, and then I can have that little point in the center. Okay, all right, so we're going to start to put this together. Okay, and I'm actually going to start with that one. So I do have to pick it up because I've got to put a little glue on it. And I don't know if you could see that while it was laying down, but you see how that fits together really kind of cool in there? Can you see that? But that's how I'm going to put that in. And it's going to be a little bit of a space. And it's, you know what the other thing is, it's going to give me a little bit more area to attach to, which is something that we always talked about when you guys were working with the clay. So, all right, so I'm going to kind of put that in, and then I can reorganize the point later. So let's put a little clip on each side of that. I'm going to move these out of the way, and then I'm going to skip a hole, and I'm going to go over here just because it'll be easier to work with. And I'm attaching those 2 points, little clothespin. And like I said, if you don't have a clothespin, it's not a big deal, you know, but it might take a little bit longer just for it to stick. But the clothespins are definitely making the process of putting this together go a little bit faster. Okay, and you can see like I'm only using a tiny bit of glue. If you use a lot of glue, it's going to take longer for it to stick because when I'm putting the glue on, it's kind of absorbing into the paper a little bit. See, that one might need a little bit more, but okay. All right, so I'm going to turn you guys off. I'm going to put the rest of this together. Okay, so I have all of the parts put together, and here I'll hold it up against the back of this so that you can kind of get a better view of what we're doing. And you can see how that is starting to take shape. So the next thing I have to do is the pieces that I just put on are kind of all different directions. So I'm going to just remake the point so it's kind of in the center. And then I'm going to pinch the bottom of that piece, and it's also going to give me a better shape so they'll all be a little bit more uniform. If it comes apart in any spots while you're doing that, you might have to put I have a little spot there I have to re-glue. Try and hold it a little bit when you're doing that. Here's the spot I have to re-glue right here. So we'll just kind of hook that back on. Okay, but you can see how this is starting to take shape, and it definitely is reflecting our design. So I'm going to show you a couple of other ways to attach things. So let's pull the screen up, and instead I'm gonna finish this design later so that you can see what it's done. But I'm going to just start with something else so that you can have an idea about how to attach in a different way. So I have a needle and thread here. All right, so a couple things about working with thread. A lot of people, a lot of students I watch, they just thread it and they keep it attached to the spool. That's not how you should work. Pull it off, cut it. Okay, so now you have just a piece of thread. And we're going to thread the needle. I have one with that's pretty fat, so it'll be easy to get it through. I need my glasses to thread this. Okay, so you thread it through the eye of the needle, and then you have two strands. You see that? So to make it a little bit stronger, I suggest that you bring the two strands together, and then a good way to make a quick knot is to take that thread and have the end of it between your fingers and wrap it around, and then kind of wiggle, like move the thread back and forth to create a knot, and then just pull it. And that's going to give you a really good size knot. Because if you're using a big needle and you uh, push it through and you don't have a good size knot, it's going to fall apart. All right, so now if you want to hide the knot, start with putting your needle through from the inside. Okay, so it's going to kind of like be on the inside of the piece. Okay, it's up to you. So I'm going to put this together with the needle and thread to make the same shape that I started with. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to push this together, and now I'm going to just pop it through. Okay, it is a little bit of a cardboard, so sometimes if you push down, if you get it through and then you take the end of your needle and push it against the table, it'll push it through easier. So we're just going to kind of string them. So the next one, I'm going to just kind of get it through and then take the needle and push it down like that. Okay, so I think I had 7 before. So we'll do the same thing. I'm using the white ones now, so it just looks a little different. Try not to stab yourself with these. Okay, so if you don't really have any glue or your glue isn't working, this is another way to work. Okay, all right, so now I've gotten all the way around, but I have to secure that in some way because it's not going to stay. So I'm going to have to go through my first one more time, and then I'm going to tighten it up. So I'm going to pick it up and push through that first loop that I had. You could go through the same hole, it doesn't matter. I kind of made another one. And then you're going to have to knot it again. So a good way to knot it this way is to wrap your thread around the needle. Let me move back, let's do that again. Wrap the thread around the needle a couple of times, pull the needle through, and then hold your finger by where you want the knot, and then slowly bring it through and tighten it up. okay, and it will catch around where you want it. And then you can just cut the extra part off. If you don't like how that looks, you can always use a button or something and cover that up. This is a little bit more movable than the other one. I think that the glue is, you might want to actually, if you want to do it this way, you might want to add some glue for more secure area. I only have 6 here, so that might be the cause of it too. I might have needed another one for the size. But that's how you would attach if you were using a needle and thread. Okay. All right, so I'm going to continue and put this whole thing together, and then we can talk about it as a finished piece when I'm finished. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Okay, so my design is definitely evolving. It definitely is going to change at this point. I'm kind of redesigning this. So what I did was I put one of the leaf shape on each side all the way around. See, I can make a space in between there. And then I'm going to put a third one in the middle. Okay, so what I did was I put these on all the way around, and now I'm going to go back and attach the piece between them. You're going to have to think about, when you're doing this, what is going to be the best way, the best order to put your parts together. That's part of this problem solving. I don't even need a paper clip or anything to hold that. So I'm just going to kind of leave it because that's enough in there. If you want to put something to hold it, it really is going to depend on how it fits. So this kind of fits in there. You got to pull it apart a little bit to put the piece in. So that's going to be a nicer, a tighter fit. I have a little piece that's sticking up, so I'm just going to glue that down. There we go. But you can see how quick it sticks. All right, put this one in. That one might need a little help holding it in place just because of the shape of these guys. So I'm gonna pinch the whole thing together, that whole little corner, because I'm gluing both sides. And I need 2 more here. So now all of the parts that I've used and all this whole pile that I still have left, I think I cut up maybe 4 tubes at the most. So these need a little help. So I'm going to kind of pinch that with something to hold that so I can keep working. You know, if you don't have clothespins, you can try binder clip. You can try things that you would hold the potato chip bag together with. You can try paper clips, you know, anything that you can kind of just, maybe a hair clip for the girls, or the boys borrow them from your sister. But anything that'll just hold it temporarily for a few seconds. Okay. All right, I'm going to continue and I'll be back. Okay, so I decided that I think I want to cut some of these. I haven't done that at all. I've only been using the shape of this, but nothing says I can't cut them. So I'm going to take it and snip it on one end because I just want to change it up, you know. There's a lot of things you could do. So I think I'm going to put it along the outside like that. So remember, your original design was a starting point. So I'm going to put these on like this, because by cutting them, it's allowing me to have a different shape. So I'm going to work with that a little bit and put them on and extend that out. You know, if you wanted to, and it worked for you to lay all of your parts out all like this without attaching them and then put them together, then that would be a great way to work if that works for you. I'm kind of like had that drawing, so I'm going, oh, I missed one here. I need a center section to that, don't I? Yep, I do. So let's stick that in. Okay. All right, that guy goes in there like the others, and then this goes around it. So I'm getting a very symmetrical piece, and you don't necessarily have to go in that direction. I just started in the center, so I think that that's what's giving me that. I'm working in kind of a symmetrical manner, working from the center outward. So I'm just going to kind of push those in between and give them a little pinch because I think that's going to be enough to hold them in place. And I put glue on both sides because I don't know which is going to be the best way to hold that. Okay, so we'll push it into the space, do one more, and then I'll turn you off for a sec and finish them up. Just a little pinch on these is working fine. All right, let me finish that out and I'll be back. Okay, so this is really coming together. I really, and just to look at, I've really only been working on it for maybe 10 minutes, if at the most, and it's really holding together. That's actually the last one that I just stuck on, so that wasn't really glued yet, but most of it's setting up pretty quickly. And I could really pick this up pretty much and it's not going to come apart. So one last thing that I wanted to show you as far as like an idea to use is I'm going to once again cut these, but this time I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to take, and I'm going to pull that little piece off and I'm going to wrap it around the pencil. I'm just kind of rolling it up and that's going to give me a cool spiral, like a curve that I can attach onto somewhere if I want. You could even spiral it one direction and then take it from the other side and twirl it up a little bit, and then you get kind of like an S shape. Okay, so those are other things that you can do. I could have them both go in the same an outward direction. Let's bend this one the other way just so we can see some different options. So just by wrapping it around a pencil, now I have like a horn kind of an effect. But imagine that you use that in your design. So if you wanted some kind of spirals, you could absolutely add that. I want you to be creative. That's really what this is all about. No matter what, we're doing whatever we find interesting and creative. So I'm going to work a little bit more on this and then I'm going to show it to you when I'm finished. I think I think I know what I want to add a little bit more. And like I said, here's my original drawing and here's my piece. So it definitely has changed a little bit as we've been going, but it's primarily I have a starting point as to where the beginning was. I think the difference is going to be I had this connected. I don't know if I want to connect that. I like how it looks open like this, so I think I'm going to continue to work these points outward a little bit further. So let me finish it up and then I'll be back for a sec. Okay, here's my finished design. I added another point all the way around just to stretch those out a little bit. Those I cut in half as well, so it was just like a V that I attached. I think I would like to spray paint this maybe black when I'm done, and maybe give it like a wrought iron kind of look. And I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see up against the paper how that kind of came together, if that helps pretty much. Um, so one thing that I want to point out is that I think you guys should work on a piece of paper like this or a piece of newspaper or something, just because I noticed I got a lot of glue on my fingers. You're going to get it on the table, even though it's water soluble, washable, easier to clean up if you just work like this. All right, so this could hang by a string and be turning. Mine is going to go right up against the wall, I think. So that's kind of why I think I want to make it black. So it's up to you. It's all about your design. I want you to be creative, come up with whatever, new techniques that you can figure out, and, make a great piece. Use it as a fun thing. We're trying to find some fun, innovative ways to work since we can't be in school. So, uh, you guys are very much impressing me. So, hopefully, you're enjoying what you're doing. All right. So, go have a good time, build something cool. I can't wait to see it. Bye. Miss you guys.